You make me think about all the positives of our Asian culture, right? And I think the whole thing of like your chi and, there needs to be inflow, but there also needs to be outflow. And when we don't behave like that with our stuff, we're going to get, it's kind of this feeling of unease or even disease eventually. And we want to avoid that, right?
Welcome to the Empowered with Immigrant Parents podcast. I am your host, your coach, Allison Ly, and my goal is to empower you with stories, tips, and tools to help reparent and reprogram your thoughts so that you can unlock your fullest potential. So let's leave the negative beliefs and negative self-talk behind. Today on the show, we have a guest who's also a practicing psychologist and a coach, a procrastination coach, Dr. Christine Lee on the show with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Allison. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And my
Yeah,
dogs are here too. So if you hear something rustling, it's the dogs.
Oh, I have a dog right over here as well. Could be either one of them. But yeah, thank you for joining us. I want to start off by just having you share with our audience what you do. And the second part is if you were to explain this to your family, like how do you describe it to them? Because then for adults with immigrant parents, a lot of them have a hard time explaining to their immigrant parents what they actually do. So what I tell my family is I just talk to people and help them. So I'm curious, first of all, what is it that you do? And then if you had to describe it, what would you say?
Interesting because, with social media, you can basically not hide anymore, especially if you have an account and you're using it actively to promote your work. So I have been promoting my work for many years, more than a decade. So I feel like I'm one of the original online psychologists. And when I started, I felt really like I knew this was the direction that I wanted to go into, but I didn't really know what anybody else would think. And it wasn't that I was overly concerned. It was really like a new playing field for everybody pretty much. And that's how far back I go online. And in terms of what I would tell my relatives, and they see me online, so they kind of know what I'm doing. What the level of depth of understanding for maybe the impact that I might be having with clients, I don't believe that they have a great level of understanding about that, but maybe that's not necessary. I think they know that I have fun with what I'm doing and that maybe it's not the most traditional way of doing mental health work or assisting people, but it's the way that works for me. And I've always been that way as a person. I've always been a little bit of the family member who is a little bit more mouthy and maybe is not so concerned with what everybody else is doing. And maybe occasionally even the black sheep kind of relative, but I've survived. Everything's good so far.
Yeah. And I'm curious for a lot of adults with immigrant parents who are more verbal, they are more expressive, they're like the trailblazers in their family. It's challenging sometimes to deal with some of those responses. So what tips do you have, for people who want to kind of do what you're doing in the sense of like just doing things differently to be able to do that while others are not so maybe comfortable or used to that?
Yeah, great question. And of course, the conundrum in some ways for most every human being with parents. So I would say it's not unique to the immigrant individual, the child of immigrants, but certainly maybe it's a little bit more intensified because of cultural expectations, dynamics, and your own particular family culture. And I would say if you are thinking of diverging in some way, big or small, from the family way, I would just always remind you that there might be disappointed people, but you can make that group of disappointed people smaller by one. And that is by avoiding disappointing yourself. In the end, and I'm older than Allison by a stretch, in the end, what you will see is that the only person who you really have to be accountable towards is yourself. And in some ways it can hit hard, and in some ways it's this gradual onslaught of age and time, but it will happen. And so why not do what you were meant to do while you're here?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like, lessen the people you disappoint and lessen disappointing yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
we're with us
Yeah.
with ourselves forever, and it's going to be really hard to sit with that for for our lives.
And we've all also been in the situation where we've tried not to be disappointing and still have disappointed other people. So
Yeah.
I think it's part of emotional well-being, period, that you can tolerate whatever responses are coming your way. And that, of course, also requires a little bit of age development and experience and going through things that you don't even know what you're really in this for. You're experimenting throughout life. But when you experience enough positive feedback from your body and from your thoughts and your creativity and your energy, that a certain set of things in life are exciting for you, and they're more exciting for you than the other stuff that maybe you were starting off your original path. It's hard to refuse that. You might be in conflict about it, but it is hard to deny that something felt awesome to you. And I think that is why many people end up in therapy, is because the conflict is just remaining and there is no way that you have been able to figure out to resolve the conflict, and you just are tired of the conflict. I think that's actually one of the only reasons people go to therapy, because otherwise we'd all like to avoid it. It's costly, it's time consuming, it used to be kind of taboo. And why bother if you could just make the choice yourself and just be happy with yourself? But it's great to have the option of being in therapy or coaching or listening to a podcast or reading a book or having a new experience to show your body, oh, wow, I'm not trapped in a box or a cage or a mindset. I can do anything I freaking want while I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree with that, right? Because even for me personally, going to therapy, doing the coaching, the personal development is hard work. And it would, like you said, be so much easier to just not do it. But
like eat
I
ice cream
feel,
and chocolate.
yeah, yeah, just like ignore it. But I
That's
feel so much better when I do these hard things because there's just, yeah, this whole other side that I haven't experienced that is just so free. And yeah, I
yeah.
totally agree with that.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
excited for us both.
Yeah. And for you, did you always know that you wanted to be a clinical psychologist and a coach, or how did you get on that path?
My life has been almost 100% accidental, so I'll explain that. I did not know. I'll start from the middle of the story. I landed in a doctoral program for clinical psychology without really knowing anyone who had been in therapy before, that there was a whole culture of therapy and analysis, even though I'm a New Yorker. So it's kind of like, how do you miss that when you live in New York? And I didn't really know at all what I was getting myself into. And I had never been in therapy either. So I was basically as uninitiated into the world of psychology and therapy as you could be. And I was an English major in college. I got a master's in developmental psychology. So that is, yes, psychology, but it's not doing therapy. So it's really kind of the study of children and adolescents, and morality was my topic of choice. But that was nothing like what I got myself into when I went into clinical training. So this was all one giant accident. But I did know that I really liked people, and I really liked reading the material that I was reading. It was kind of like a natural understanding of this stuff. And I just kind of went with it, and I was lucky. So, no, I did not know that I wanted to be a clinical psychologist at any point in my life. And I was very fortunate that it all worked out and that it was a really good fit for me and my personality.
And then how did you add on the procrastination coach? Is that separate or integrated with your work?
It is both separate and integrated with my work. I long ago realized that I could help people with recovering from procrastination, because that was also a large part of my backstory, that I spent the first 30 years of my life ridiculously procrastinating and not knowing that it was something that could be shifted in any way. I just thought this was me. I was just different. And I was different, fine, not different, terrible, but just different, struggling, because I didn't know how to use time. I didn't know how to organize. I didn't know how to prioritize. I didn't know how to show up on time. So that caused a lot of problems over the 30 years and cumulatively. And then when I was working at a large university counseling service, I randomly volunteered to be the designer of a procrastination workshop. And then I realized through reading a book or two in preparation for that workshop that I was patient zero, that I was the source of all procrastination issues and struggles and conflicts, and that I was the one who really needed the workshop the most. And my life changed immediately because my brain opened up and my understanding of myself opened up. And I was able to, over the ensuing, I would say 10 years, really figure out clutter, figure out lateness, figure out my voice, figure out where to put my attention, how to nurture my focus, all those sub skills that one needs to really avoid procrastinating all the time. Because life comes at you, and if you don't have the proper defenses and the proper, I would say, productivity strategies in place, you're going to get overwhelmed. And I lived in an overwhelmed, near panicky state when I was younger. And I'm so grateful to be on the other side of that piece of my life. But of course, that's the part that got me on this show and to this point in my life, right? None of us can be who we are without that old part. So never reject any part of yourself, even the stuff that you really can't believe happened.
Yeah, thanks for sharing a little bit about the journey, right? And for people who aren't really aware of what that might look like, what do you think would be a way for someone to know if they're procrastinating in a fine way, right? Where it's working for them, they're getting along great, but there's a better side that they could experience. Like, how would they know that that's something they're struggling with?
What a fantastic question. I would say stress levels, one thing. If your stress is just not, it's fine to have stress go up, right? But if it's always kind of spiking, that would be a cue for me. Clutter, physical clutter in most of the areas around you, that may be a sign. It's just that you're maxed out. Your mental load is so high that you don't really have the extra time or the bandwidth to really do the daily maintenance of, oh, let's just make this a calm environment for me to thrive in. So those are just two things that come to mind. And I would say, trust your intuition. If you're thinking, there was kind of got to be a better way, there probably is. And that's another thing that I've learned just in recent years, that there's so many possibilities for each of us in every single situation. So if you ever feel like this is the end of the road, I'm broken, I'm stuck permanently, I mean, you're just wrong on that, because there's got to be another way.
Yeah, I like that internal way to recognize if you're feeling like stress, to see if that's a procrastination issue, or like a physical way to look and see if there's something that you can work on. I really like having that two different options.
Yeah.
For adults with immigrant parents too, I think a lot of times when there's like a history of trauma or poverty or just scarcity, like clutter actually comes up a lot, right? Where, parents or family members might hoard, so to speak, or just hold on to things just in case. Do you have any suggestions or advice on how to look at that thought and like challenge that?
I think, the challenge word got me, because my thought is we're always going to have our own opinion, no matter how we were raised, right? And that has always got to remain in the conversation, is that you can never, I believe, you can never really abandon your own thought. So if you're reacting negatively to a parent's hoarding tendencies, understand that. You don't have to reject that piece of you to stay connected with your parent or the situation. But you could also develop a new skill, perhaps, of saying to yourself, I am safe in this relationship no matter how I feel about the behavior that my parent is doing, right? So you don't have to become a hoarder. You don't have to like what they're doing, but the connection can still remain and can be healthy. So that's a little bit of a fuzzy response, but I've lived that. And I think we're all just going to have to cope with what is. I mean, I think that's something that is very emotionally healthy too. Just being able to say, I don't reject the other person. I don't reject me or what I believe and feel. And I think that is what happens oftentimes with children of immigrants, where they are either forced to reject themselves or forced to silence their natural responses or forced to not be part of the conversation because of a more hierarchical family structure and belief that that's how it should be. That traps one person in an uncomfortable, stressful situation. That makes the clutter, yes, very, very stressful. Otherwise, it's just how that person chooses to live, in a little bit of an inconvenience for me, but it does not have to wreck my insides or my relationship with that parent.
Hey, if you found this episode or any other episodes helpful, insightful, relatable so far, get on my email list as well. This is where you would get actionable tips, relatable tools, and it's just a space where you can feel connected and have the support and tools that may be beneficial for you as you're embracing how to unlock your fullest potential as an adult with immigrant parents. So go to heyallisonly.com/email to get on the email list, and I will talk to you there. The link will be in the show notes as well. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, thank you for pointing out that word, right? Because what we choose to think about things and the words that we use are also really important. And I really like that you distinguished that and kind of brought it more into this acceptance and how do you coexist with what's happening and like what you want, like, or how you want to deal with something. I really love that.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, to each of us. It really is our uniqueness gets to be, no matter what the circumstances we're in, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And me personally, I think I've had a struggle of letting go of that scarcity mindset too, because I was like, oh, well, my parents used to keep stuff all the time. So yeah, like it's been a challenge in just letting go and knowing that that was something they experienced, something I also experienced, right? In living with them and being around them. But yeah, it doesn't have to be my story moving forward, and it's still an ongoing struggle every day, but you know, in different ways. But it's freeing to know that you can let go and also accept and not like feel trapped by old circumstances.
Yes. I always say that, I was taught this, by the way, but I now always say that our parents got to make their lives and we get to make ours. So actually, it was a wonderful acupuncturist who shared that thought with me, that our parents got to make their mistakes in their timeline and we get to make ours in ours. So whether we have clutter or not, it's kind of up to us, right? And if it's a challenge, maybe that's because it's a lesson we're about to learn, rather than, oh, wow, we just really don't know how to organize our stuff, you know? And I think it's our role as therapists slash coaches to facilitate that examination, to make sure people are not tearing themselves apart while they're reviewing these stories that have happened to them. I mean, I think that's why so many people do end up using therapists and coaches in their lives, because it's a safe space, whereas it didn't feel safe prior.
Yeah, and that negative self-talk and the negative beliefs can like run very deep really quickly. And yeah, it's so great to have spaces to just feel like we could share it and not worry about the other person, like how they're going to receive it.
Yeah. that worry in general. Let's just cleanse our lives of worry as best as we can and let the occasional worry crop up, but let's not live in persistent states of worry. That is what was the biggest gift of learning how to recover from procrastination, right? So you delay on something, that's not a big deal, but living with worry in your chest and in your soul all the time, no bueno, not good, not good.
Yeah. So I know you just came off of a 5-day challenge, and you run this every now and then, right, during the year.
Yes.
And if you are okay with it, if you could share a little bit about that challenge. Because like I mentioned to you earlier, I saw little bits of the training, and I really loved your format and the things that you were saying. So if you could share a little bit with our audience, if they're interested when it comes back around, that they can join.
I would love to talk about it. And, you know, you're making me reflect that I used to not enjoy describing it so much because the topic is decluttering. And I've always had a pretty ambivalent relationship with stuff. I have been a cluttered person. I have suffered because of that, suffered shame, guilt, frustration, annoyance, all the things. And I would say about 3 or 4 years ago, even probably three, a clump of my clients persistently requested assistance with helping them with clutter. And I persistently responded, you are talking to the wrong person. You must be talking to the wrong person because I have clutter. It's just hidden under the Zoom room. And then I just said, oh, just give it up and just do this, right? And I did a 5-day challenge and I created it as I went and I used my instincts and my heart, and it was magical. From the first challenge, it was just this ridiculous experiment of me doing my best to be helpful and people coming in clumps, talking about clumps. So lots of people were magnetized to this topic. And within the space of, it's a 5-day challenge where I give a 15-minute prompt each day. But by the second or third day, people were transforming their homes from cluttered and not much usable to magazine worthy. It was bizarre. It was kind of mind-blowing, unbelievable. And that spark of energy, honestly, more than the topic, was what told me this is kind of where you need to land. You've found your audience. You've found the way to help people come into your coaching world. And that was a blessing and really interesting because, again, I had this ambivalence. So I did feel like I had landed somewhere and I knew this is great, but I also carried that ambivalence forward because guess what? Until you're really done with the letting go and figuring out the challenge process, you're going to have that conflict. It's just what it is. It's how we are built as human beings. Until we're decided, we're going to be in conflict. And so I would say I'm still a little bit cluttered, but I feel so strong about what I know about clutter and psychology and how people suffer with it. And in the past 3 weeks, I think I've gained close to 40,000 followers on social media, which has been additionally mind-blowing. But it's, again, a sign that there's a nerve I'm touching with how I'm speaking or my posts. Something's happening. And I'm just saying, let's do this experiment together. So thanks for bringing that up. And everyone is welcome to join my next round. It'll be in early 2026. I don't have anything formally scheduled, but it will definitely happen. And if you don't mind, Allison, I will share a worksheet that I developed a few years ago after I hired a local organizer to help me virtually with my own space. So I had her on my podcast, which is the Make Time for Success podcast, for a couple of episodes, numbers 44 and 45. And I made a worksheet right away because it was kind of like it was flowing out of me. And I was so excited to just capture what she had taught me. And I asked her permission to share this information, which she granted. And you can get that maybe 2-sheet worksheet by going to maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/clutter. Again, maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/clutter. And I hope you enjoy it and stay in touch with me.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll include that in the show notes for sure, so you can check that out there.
Terrific.
I really loved what you like your journey seems to be like you stumble upon these things, but purposefully in a way where you choose to try things out, and then it just is like kind of what you either needed or what really works with you and attracts the right audience and attracts like the great energy that you have for your work.
Yeah, the accidental life for sure. So thank you for seeing what has happened and for interviewing me and for being so lovely. I am curious, like, what is your situation with clutter? Let's start there because you did say that you went into the challenge, and what did you realize and what was surprising to you, perhaps?
Well, so I have a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old at this time. So a lot of the clutter is a lot of toys and a lot of stuff that the child just leaves around. But I also personally have just not touched a lot of the stuff on my desk, which is kind of like what you're talking about. Because I don't even sit there anymore. I just kind of put stuff on there now. So I think for me, coming into that challenge was, I think just starting, right? Like, I think what you're talking about, I don't want to disclose too much, but just starting to do something, and then it builds momentum. And I really like that. It was just so, easy to start, and it didn't make me feel so overwhelmed. It didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm gonna need to do X, Y, Z, and then like just put it off. So I really liked that. And I think that's a standard that I have for me anyway. That's why a lot of my podcasts, a lot of things that I do, I just start and I fix it along the way. Otherwise, I get stuck on like trying to perfect it, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Actually, I do internally. I think I want to do, but I should not do because I would just end up reaching for something that's not attainable. So I really like that it was just so easy to start. And I really think if our listeners are interested, they should definitely join your challenge and check out that freebie.
Thank you. I love your summary of the challenge because I think that's really a core part of people's success in it is that I'm teaching them to just start, and that doesn't matter what experience you're in right now, you could still start. So there's literally no way to have an excuse to do the small steps. They're so small without giving anything away. And it's really fun. It's fun to release the barrier that we have, whatever it is, in whatever circumstances, whether it's clutter or speaking up or trying something new. It's really like, it's like getting a cold drink when you've been thirsty and hot. Like, it's just so great. It's so great what life is ready to give us when we open up.
Yeah, and even with the stuff that my toddler has around, right? Even I have this worry of like she'll miss it or whatnot. But then like I've been trying to incorporate her in more of the decision making. I mean, she's 4 now, so it's a little easier to be able to be like, what are we gonna throw away or whatnot. But it's more than as you're mentioning, it's more than just the clutter. It's also this like load that we're carrying with all the things that we have, and so. Yeah, it's been a great challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you make me think about all the positives of our Asian culture, right? And I think the whole thing of like your chi and, there needs to be inflow, but there also needs to be outflow. And when we don't behave like that with our stuff, we're going to get, it's kind of this feeling of unease or even disease eventually, and we want to avoid that, right? We're all like wanting to be healthy and exuberant and feel vital, but we forget when it comes to our stuff and the toys and and our space, and what other people have and what we want. But let's just have some sort of balance restored, and that oftentimes comes when we let go of these barriers that we've been carrying around with us all this time.
Yeah. So maybe one last question for you. If there is anything that you think is a big misunderstanding about procrastination or anything that you're doing with the coaching stuff or therapy, like what do you think comes to mind as I ask you that?
Such great questions, Allison. Thank you. I would say we believe our minds far too much. I'll just put that there. Think about that, right? If you believed everything you thought, you might be actually in a real bind, right? Because our minds are fulfilling the survival, safety, responsibility, keeping us alive, keeping us safe. But most of the things that we're doing, and most of us are completely physically and emotionally safe and secure. We don't really have to worry about that level of our brain functioning. So don't listen to everything that your monkey mind is telling you. And we all have a part of our mind that acts like a monkey. So feel safer, basically, would maybe be the summary of the tip, because you've got so much possibility that's waiting for you to say, hello, hello, I'd like to meet you. I'd like to really see how this feels.
Yeah, that seems to be like the theme, right? There's this other side, there's this other potential that we have available to us, but we just have to either make a decision to look at it, start it, or do something about it and know that it's available for us.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah,
so
that's
much more
awesome.
than we can ever handle. Oh, I
Yeah,
mean, we can handle everything, but it's going to be, we have too many opportunities to even go through.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all about your coaching, your therapy, and this just it's just been a great conversation. Then I hope that our listeners take away the fact that they could just start and join your challenge and check out that freebie that you have for them to just get started on seeing what's available for them.
Yeah, let's go. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Allison. Thanks everyone for
thank you so
listening.
much. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lee. Well, all the information that we talked about will be on the show notes. And is there anywhere else that people can find you if they want to follow you? You said on Instagram, was it?
Instagram and TikTok are my home bases lately. I'm also on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, but you can find me at Procrastination Coach on those platforms. My website is procrastinationcoach.com. And my podcast, again, is Make Time for Success.
Yeah, a great name for procrastination coach. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. I appreciate you being here. Just as a reminder, all information on this is intended to be informational and educational only. Although I am a licensed therapist, I am not your therapist. If you are looking for any medical or mental health services, please reach out to providers local to your area and seek out information that is specific for you. This information is not intended to replace any medical or mental health services that you may benefit from. And I hope that you enjoyed the information that was provided on the show today, and I'll see you on the next episode.